Alright, welcome back to the worst podcast on the internet, the Kyle's Experience. We talk about nothing at all. But our first topic is one that kind of hits close to home for me because it's something that I've been invested into for, quite a while now. I lost a little bit of interest in it in the last few years, but there's something new going on with it that I'm kind of interested in. It's the Game Theorist. Alright, now, the Game Theorist is like my first ever favorite YouTube channel. I think I was watching the Game Theorist back when I was 8 years old. Genuinely, it goes that far back. Yeah, so I've been into their stuff for a while. Obviously after that I kind of moved on to more commentary stuff, more music related videos, but I kind of always kept game theory and film theory and all of those channels kind of in my regular rotation of watching. But the past few years, 2024, 2025, I've kind of dipped out a little bit, even a little bit before that in 2023. There were a couple videos I didn't check out. And a lot of that can be put on one thing, that being that MatPat, the kind of face of game theory, stepped down, and that was a huge situation back in early 2024. They kind of I don't think he was the first. I think there was a guy before him, but that definitely kicked off the trend of a lot of YouTubers retiring. And here's the thing about MatPat. MatPat objectively just won at life, alright? He came up with this YouTube channel. He got to do it for 13 years. He managed to stay relevant on YouTube for 13 years, which is super impressive, alright? Not a lot of people can say they did that. Not a lot of people can say they kept their careers alive for that long in just general, over the whole history of entertainment. That's a pretty elite group of people who've kept their names relevant for over a decade. But obviously, after that, after running 4 channels all kind of simultaneously, of course he did have editors, he did have people that helped him with the scripts. It wasn't a one-man operation, okay? He did have a team. But, of course, managing that team, managing all the channels, that gets kind of stressful. Also, he had, a wife and a kid. That also probably leads to more stress. So, eventually, he got to a moment where he got the money he needed, and he got to retire. And now he spends, the rest of his time just hanging out in a nice house with his wife and his kid. And I don't even think this guy is 40 yet. Alright, correct me if I'm wrong. He may be 40, but I think he's a little below 40. I think he's close, but a little under 40. And he's already retired. He doesn't have to work another day in his life if he doesn't want to. This guy objectively won. Yeah, so I always thought that was kind of cool. Of course, back to me, because this is the Kyle's Experience. Back in the day when I was 9 years old, I was doing my own little theories on YouTube. Of course, none of them were as good as the Game Theorist, and that's not to glaze them. That's actually just to put myself down. They were literally this, but somehow in a lower quality, and the theories made no sense. There was very limited proof to any of the theories. But anyways, yeah, I definitely do have a connection with the Game Theorist. Anyways, on to more recent times. The people to replace him came in. They had a host per channel. And I wasn't really familiar with these people. Apparently they worked on the team before MatPat fully quit. I still wasn't really fully familiar with them. I didn't really watch a lot of their stuff when they took over Game Theory, so I can't really speak on how well they did. I maybe caught 1-2 game theories and thought they were alright. I maybe caught one film theory and thought it was alright. I don't think I've watched food theory, or I've never watched a style theory in my life. Even when MatPat was hosting, never watched a style theory. Alright, Anyways, yeah. So after this, a few people did point out that the views were dipping a little bit. Like they went from getting 1 million to more around 500, 600,000 views, which is a dip. But that's also still pretty good, 500,000, 600,000 views. That's pretty good. A lot of people would be happy with that. But you do have to remember, Game Theorist is like a pretty big company. They need to get pretty big views to stay popular. So, yeah. After views have been dipping for a while, Game Theorists decided to come up with a new plan to turn a bit more of a profit, to make themselves a little bit more sustainable. Introducing the Theoryverse. This is the dumbest idea I have ever heard, like in my life. All right, it's like Netflix for terminally online autists. Literally, that is what this is. It's the 4 hosts now like trying to be like personality based content creators, but it's locked behind a paywall. So like to get someone to pay for your content, they'd have to like the corporate content that you're making with not as much personality, to then buy the thing to make them like your personality. It makes no sense. Alright? This is a stupid ideal. A bunch of YouTubers have tried making like their own like streaming service. Not necessarily a YouTuber, but Butch Hartman tried this and he just straight up scammed people. I don't think the Game Theorists are scamming people, all fairness. I think what's being advertised will be delivered. It's just what's being advertised is like really, really lame. Why would anyone pay for this? And it's different from like a membership thing that's like, okay, I like this person's content, I'm gonna give them money. This is like locking content behind a paywall, alright? Locking like bad content behind a paywall too. Like they're playing like goy games with each other where they like hold up thumbs up or thumbs down. Like, who wants to watch this? Like, I get MatPat because he had like a pretty strong personality. Who cares about any of these people, to be honest with you? No insult on them. I'm sure they're all very nice. It's just who cares? But anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts on this whole thing. I think this whole Theoryverse thing is like pretty dumb. It stinks as kind of a corporate decision. I didn't mention this before, but Game Theory at one point was bought out by like a larger media company, so it kind of feels like something they kind of like made is like a corporate decision, less of like a thing for the fans, more of like a corporate thing. Kind of stinks like that to me. But anyways, the second topic I wanted to discuss in this video, a little bit of a shorter segment because I'm not really as passionate about this one. But Drake, alright? Drake, the famous Soulja Boy quote, recently did not just release one album, because, that would have been painful enough. He released 3. Why? Alright? Now, a lot of people have been theorizing different things about this one. Some say he released 3 albums to get out of his contract with UNG, because he had, like, a little bit of beef with them. Even if that was true, why? Could the music be, like, any better? Now, in all fairness, I didn't listen to the albums, because, I'm not a Drake fan. I'm not a goy. I'm not gonna listen to, like, literally the most soulless artist of our generation. Also, for some reason, the biggest. But also, I have been hearing a lot about these albums, and it just seems kind of petty. He just keeps bringing up the beef he had with Kendrick Lamar like 2 years ago. And, I'm not going to act like some people were and pretend that Kendrick wasn't kind of milking the beef after it happened. Like, obviously he brought it up again at the Super Bowl show like a year later. He made like little passing remarks in his album he released a few months after the beef. So he definitely milked his victory, but also that was a year ago. He also like kind of eventually moved on. Whereas Drake, it's been 2 years. You can stop bringing this up. You can stop reminding us that this happened. Yeah, why? I also wanted to bring this up just to, like, make the point. Mainstream music is dead, alright? A lot of you people are just hearing about, like, these albums dropping from this video. And that's a lot because, you know, I cover incel-core, and a lot of people are in kind of more niche spaces instead of hearing about the mainstream. But, like, has anyone listened to these 3 albums besides people that, like, need to listen to them to, like, review them? Or, like, hardcore, like, Drake fans, which, dude, it sounds insufferable to be in a room with those people. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of underhanded digs right now, but, yeah. Has anyone that's just like a casual listener listened to all 3 of these albums fully through? Have they listened to 41 songs of I'm trying to get out of my record contract, I'm really mad right now? Like, come on. Does anyone like this? Does anyone like this? And ultimately, this kind of shows why Drake lost the beef to Kendrick. You know, Kendrick was more about entertaining the audience. Drake was more about pumping up his numbers, and that's what this is for. All right, it's either A, getting out of a record deal, or B, inflating his numbers. So yeah. Anyways, that is episode 27 of the Kyle's Experience. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below, and bye.